Welcome to the World of Nutrition. This is part of the World of Ability podcast network, and we are so excited to be here today with our wonderful host, Marilyn Lamer. Marilyn, so happy to have you here and doing what you do so well. And I know you've got some great guests coming in as well. So, Marilyn, thank you so much. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sue. I appreciate you. Aloha, everyone from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm Marilyn Lamer, and welcome to the World of Nutrition podcast. So we have two amazing speakers, and I wanted to introduce the very first one, Alissa Bickar. Alissa is a seasoned business consultant with over 20 years of experience in entrepreneurship, finance, and coaching. She partners with professionals and producers to build and grow their book of business through innovative strategies and personalized support. By combining practical business development initiatives with a whole person approach, Alissa empowers her clients to rise above the grind of competition in the marketplace by amplifying their unique strengths to achieve their next level goals and aspirations. Alissa, thank you so much for being here.
It is so my pleasure. Thank you, Marilyn, for having me.
Awesome. So the consultress, I know when I met you earlier, I was like, tell me more. Tell our listeners more about the consultress and what you do.
Well, the consultress is a blend of who I am as a person and my love language, growing up in an entrepreneurial family and speaking the business language of tactics and strategy, along with being a strong personality. So the consultress was born after many iterations of my brand, some soft, some super hard. But at the end of the day, we all need support in becoming who we're meant to become through the grand pursuit of business. It is the best personal development tool on the planet. So when I combine those things, you get the consultress, which is ultimately feminine, very caretaking and relationship oriented, as well as no BS, cut to the truth, get to the heart of what really matters so you can move the needle in whatever it is you're trying to do. So for me, supporting those professionals to be who they really are in their marketing, not just talk about what they do, but magnetize those conversations to attract the right partners and the right clients is part of my mission in this digital hybrid world. Connection first.
I love that so much. I was just speaking to a friend right before this podcast about feminine and masculine energy. For people that don't understand or don't know what feminine or masculine energy is, please share a little bit more.
Right on. So for me, if you're looking at the left brain and the right brain, left brain is usually categorized by things like structure and logic and everything being in its tidy little place. That's what we refer to mostly as more masculine energy. In my methodology, the simple method, that is the first three letters, SIM. This is where business and other approaches start with how they think in a masculine way. Strategy, implementation, metrics. You hear things like KPIs, what's your business plan, and the normal speak of business. That's all really rooted in the masculine. The feminine energies, usually more right brain oriented, a little bit more on the creative side of the house, is the second half of the acronym SIMPLE, is the PLE. And that is more about how we interconnect with one another, how we show up as individuals, as leaders, and how we really support the empowerment of ourselves, our clients, our communities. So the PLE is partnership, leadership, and empowerment. These are the connecting forces that bring the purpose of your business to life. So without the purpose or the connectivity of who you're serving and why you're serving them, business is just a mechanic. So these two energies, the masculine and the feminine, both need to be present in any endeavor, whether you're selling your idea to your church or why people should eat healthy. It needs both of these things to work properly. So it really isn't about either or, which kind of our current industrial age thinking has us kind of like, well, one's better than the other, right? No, we're entering an age of partnership where both need to be at the table. And in fact, they're both non-negotiable in order to create a balanced, productive, and evolutionary business and self-identity.
I love that so much. And I'm curious because putting the two together, how do you keep them balanced?
Ah, well. Now, I think balance is probably the trickiest thing on the planet. Because when you think about when you first learned how to ride a bike, did you balance yourself between your left pedal and your right pedal? No, because if you stood there with both feet on the pedals, you're falling over. One way or the other, you're going over. So the theory of balance comes from being in motion. As you press that pedal and you lean forward and balance and counterweight that right pedal, it becomes necessary for you to put the foot on the left side and then shift your weight again. And to keep the bike moving, you have to be in this constant state of flux and fluidity. That to me is the balance people are trying to strike. Not 50% of this, 50% of this, and there's this like solid snapshot. It really is more about being balanced in motion and taking priorities as they come and being willing not to sacrifice one whole side for the other. And so when you think in the extremes, and I always talk about like the industrial age of thinking, which is like sit down, behave, and sit at your station and screw in that screw. It's all you can do. That is devoid of creativity. So there's no balance in that. But then when you have all your creativity and you're just creating art for art's sake, while that can be very fulfilling, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to something, a particular aim or goal. So one without the other, again, can be led astray. And so the concept of balance to me feels more like following your priorities, and as you're in motion, being willing to continually refine what's important and make a new set of awareness. So plans are important, planning is important, but the plans as you get into motion become irrelevant because you need to review and renew and reflect in order to stay in motion. That to me is balance, is the constant reflection and refinement, which I think gets lost in translation with a lot of the just do this mentality or the guru style, only focus right here and everything else will solve itself. Well, sort of. You need to have a focus, you need to have a why, but you need to be in constant motion and reflecting in order to achieve true balance.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. So balance is being in motion. That is true. And I love the analogy of the bike pedals. Like if we're not constantly, as things come up for us, if we're not constantly, um, taking notice of where we are, we could fall over being on a bike that's not balanced. And then review, and reflect. That is so powerful because then we get to see, okay, what's working, what's not, and maybe change or pivot or try another solution.
Yeah, stay willing to be open to the fact that because you got in motion, like the idea that you had when you started usually changes as you get exposure and experience to the results of that activity. Again, left brain thinking usually leaves us like plan, execution, no room for deviation. But that's not really the way of creating something that's never been created before. It's have a plan, try it out, review it, see what you want to take for your next iteration or what continues to be valuable. But maybe you're readdressing your assumptions at that point. It is very much like the scientific method. Test your hypothesis, then change some of the variables. Maybe you'll get to the outcome you expected, or maybe you'll stumble over something brand new that's really useful. But being open to reflect and be aware of the experience and what it is that you're seeing and be willing to be objective at times really helps you to stay in focus, specifically as you aim towards a goal, but maybe your goal changes. This is the part of the feminine energy, the feminine part of the conversation, that it will change as you go. And you have to take heart and be willing to be courageously agile and continue to adapt and change. In the last couple of years, the world has had to do a lot of adapting and changing. And that brought awareness to us that nothing really is static anymore. So we're breaking down that myth of the super hyper left brain logical masculine for masculine's sake type of thinking. And we're bringing in this adaptable and living and breathing way of thinking about progress and change.
I love that so much. And tell me, do you work with both men and women or just women?
Ha! Listen, I have a gender bias in my book of business. I do work with a lot of women, but it is not exclusive. So I was just speaking to a client today that I established a men's mastermind. And after a certain point in time, after training them on the format, the formula, keeping the community tight and respectful of everyone's time, I gave them over the keys and said, you're ready to run this yourself. So I don't think gender so much matters as intention of being willing to be in partnership, in community, and knowing that two is better than one, and that the thought of collaboration trumps that very pyramid looking power structure. So I think it's a way of looking at collaboration rather so than a specific gender role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that reminded me of a quote like the best leaders create better leaders or more leaders.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm curious, what is your favorite like story or person that you got to work through this with? I would love to hear. I
Oh
know
my
it's so hard to choose just one.
Well, so right now I'm present to the balance. So I want to just highlight a mentor of mine who kind of introduced me to this concept. And for me, she took me through a process that actually the Consultress brand was born from, and it was getting highly abstract. She would cancel meetings and just be like, I really don't feel up to it today. And my left brain was going nuts and saying, how dare you schedule? Because I had an assumption that I had better not reschedule because that's unprofessional. It was holding me to a standard like, come hell or high water, sick or well, you have to show up. But what she taught me by being willing to be present at your feelings was that if you're not showing up at your best, you're doing a disservice to the person you're showing up to serve. And while some measure of get up and do it, whether or not you feel like it, is part of being in business or part of being part of an initiative, the fact that she taught me by being who she was, that you need to be adaptable and present to how you are, how you're showing up. And that's part of my second half of my acronym in the L of simple, and is how are you showing up as a leader? Because that's what's going to define the spaces you show up in. That's going to define how the community that you're building or how the workshop that you're hosting is going to go based on how you show up. And so now you're asking me like, what's my favorite story about putting this into practice for people? Having the ability to sit in my, this is a personal story, sit in the room where my father's viewing was being held. And I sat in that room and wondered, opened myself up and said, how do I show up to this? Who do I need to be to honor my father and his legacy, as well as to create a loving experience for those coming to pay respects? And showing up as a crying, bawling mess didn't feel right to me. Even though I was very sad, it felt like we were there to honor him. So I just drew in that energy. And when we had the receiving line, we were shaking hands, having one-on-one conversations, to the point where the funeral director came up and said, you have a really long line. You have to hurry these people along. And I said, no, we can't. I'm so sorry. That's not honoring my father's legacy. And so holding that space, everyone who came through there was so much love in that room that everyone left transformed, even from something that was a really sad occasion. And so I've demonstrated this in my own life. My kids now get to pay it forward in their lives, for their friends when they're going through tough times, but also as entrepreneurs are moving from one paradigm to another, making a pivot, or having an awareness that they've outgrown their business and they need to innovate. I often tell the story of my dear friend and former client. She had a German-speaking business. She was an accomplished author and a big trainer, but she knew she needed to leave Germany as her residence and wanted to move to another island country. So in that process, walking her through, okay, who are you that is being called to this new space? How do you show up there as a confident, whole and centered businesswoman? And from that change in her life, we address some of the really dark, deep stuff that comes up. Am I worthy? Who's going to accept me there? It's a male-dominated territory. And we did the inner work about what we think we need to be. And then we're able to unlock and open up. Okay, here's the value that I've delivered through my business from where I used to live. How do I translate that into a new business here where I am now? And so for her, we were able to harvest out some of the key pieces of her life's work that she had gathered through the decades of doing what she did and implement a new body of work that she's just now beginning to emerge on a global stage. So that kind of transition was both geographical, interpersonal. It had an identity shift in it, as well as a new brand and a new business being born. All of those concepts took the strategic, implementable, and metrics masculine pieces, and we reviewed them from a place of her identity of who she used to be, who she is now, and who she was becoming, and mapped that over into a new value proposition. So this work is deep, and it is confronting, and being able to walk the walk just like my mentor did for me and embody the transformation so that I could feel it, I could watch it and experience it. That's how I help people make their pivots, whether it's in their messaging and they need to speak more clearly into the hearts of the strategic partners they want to refer them more business, or whether it's creating a brand new business model. It starts from having these assessments in your feminine energy, as well as partnering it up with the tactical pieces of how to bring that to fruition.
Yeah, I love that you shared both a personal and a professional story. And you know what I got from there is being present. Like there's so many people out there that are not being present to what's going on. And even I've been learning the way that they're listening is to either agree or disagree. And with the things that have been happening lately, it's just like, okay, well, how can we be present and just hold space for each other to be able to listen to even another point of view? Because there's something that I'm learning from you. There's something I'm going to be learning from Christy, right? I learned something from every single person that I meet every single day. And if we operated out of curiosity, I think that would be so much more beneficial. So I love that you're, really digging in, and this work isn't easy, right? You said it is deep work. It's hard. Sometimes people don't want to look at, the things that I'll speak from I don't want to look at the things that I've just stuffed down because it's so easier. It's so much easier to be like, oh no, it's out of my control. No, it is my control. And so I love that you're sharing this. How are we showing up as leaders? Because we are all a leader.
Yep.
Is there any? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's true. Whether you're in your role as mother, child, sister, parent, grandparent, boss, friend, coworker, colleague, leadership is important for every single one of us. To have 100% responsibility for how you show up will make the world a better place, because you are right. Active listening is an act of compassion, and being curious rather than thinking about where you're going to, go back to that industrial category, left brain box, where you're going to categorize that person is maybe not necessarily helpful. Be willing to change your definitions because of your experiences, not the other way around.
And I also love that you talked about collaboration, because that's, I believe, a rising tide lifts all ships. So how can we collaborate? And, I'm learning something from you. I wanted you to be on this podcast, and it's like, you get to share your nuggets and your experience in your life with the audience. And, same with Christy. So it's just like, how can I open up my network, to hear what you have to offer? And that's the kind of things that I love. Collaboration is just so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any events or coming up, or if people want to find you, how can they find you?
Best way to find me is Google Consultress. I have my YouTube channel is just youtube.com/@Consultress, CONSULTRESS. And you'll find my Facebook and my Instagram by Googling that. And also, you'll see some of the other things that I'm up to on LinkedIn as far as like real estate is concerned. But for the most part, I would love people to know that on every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I host a live VIP mastermind. So if you connect with me and you DM me and we start a relationship, that's an opportunity for you to get a personal invitation to that event. I only choose one guest expert and 6 VIP panelists per event, and then open the doors for an audience to come and have guest seats to watch. So please do connect with me, Facebook and Instagram mostly for those for that initiative. But happy to connect. Please DM me. I love to have conversations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alissa, for being a guest today. We really appreciate you taking the time out. I know it's a little bit late Eastern time and, you know, just fighting to keep most of the sunlight happening on that side. So thank
Yeah,
you so much for being our guest.
my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So our next guest, my next speaker is Christy Mahone. Dr. Christy Mahone is a dedicated wellness professional with deep passion for helping individuals unlock their body's natural ability to heal and thrive. With over 3 years of clinical experience, she has honed her skills in providing holistic care to her patients. Dr. Christy firmly believes in the power of chiropractic care and functional medicine to promote overall well-being, and she is committed to addressing the root cause of ailments and not just the symptoms, offering personalized treatment plans tailored to each individual's unique needs. Her gentle and hands-on approach, combined with her extensive knowledge of the human body, allows her to provide effective and lasting results for her patients. With a focus on holistic healing, Dr. Christy aims to empower her patients to take control of their health and live their best lives. She understands that true wellness is a journey and is dedicated to supporting her patients in every step of the way. So whether you're seeking relief from chronic pain or looking to optimize your body's performance, Dr. Christy is here to guide you towards a healthier, happier, and more vibrant life. Yay, Dr. Christy, thank you so much for being on today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about, chiropractic care and your holistic care and why you got into what you do.
Well, the reason I discovered chiropractic, I'll make it a little emotional, so sorry. It's one of those days. But growing up, I watched my grandmother get addicted to pain medication, and ultimately that destroyed the quality of life that she had. This was no longer the woman that was fun. We stayed in the country. She couldn't tend to the farm anymore. And I remember I was around 12 years old, but she would like just carry this big bag of pills around. She had to take 80 prescriptions a day just to get through the day after like a freak accident. And I was like, I'm not sure what the solution is, but I don't think it's in that big bag of pills that you have. This felt like a band-aid that was kind of holding her together. Hi. Sorry guys. Plans did not go as anticipated today, so I'm in a little bit of a different environment, but it just felt like a big band-aid that was kind of holding her together, but not necessarily doing anything or fixing her problem. So ultimately, recovering from her surgery, I was like, you need to learn how to move again. You have to restore this motion. She passed away during COVID, like right in the middle of my chiropractic schooling. But ultimately, when I was in school, I just learned about your body's ability to heal itself, I'm sorry, guys. But just your body's ability to heal itself inside and out. And I just wish that I would have gotten to share that with her before her demise. But that's been my reason why to pay it forward, to help prevent this from happening to other families, and they can, um, have their natural wellness for as long as they can, have their mobility for as long as they can, their quality of life for it as long as they can, and just being able to protect those precious moments that we have with each other.
It's so
Sorry.
beautiful. You don't have to apologize, That is such a beautiful story, and you're so real and authentic, and the listeners and the viewers will feel that, as they listen and watch you. So thank you so much for sharing that. And, watching somebody that you love just get addicted to pain medication, it it can be easy, and you found another way and you're looking to pay it forward. That is just such a beautiful cause because, there's just so many people that don't realize and they just trust, all these meds to fix them. However, it's just basically a band-aid, right? It's not getting to the root cause. And I believe that chiropractic care really does get to the root cause. And so I'd love to hear how you've been able to help people get to the root cause um, holistically.
Ooh. Um, so basically, there are about, uh, I guess, like five pillars of health that determine how you feel, how you look, and how much energy you have. Um, I would say the biggest influencing factor is your gut health. That's about the foundation of everything. How you actually absorb your nutrients, absorb your food. That's going to be the building blocks to everything that your body does. Whether you just want to build a little piece of hair or you have to build this muscle, it's going to be the building block of everything. We're making new hormones. We're balancing out brain chemistry. We're balancing out your blood serum. Um, and then we'll have insulin resistance. And this is essentially your body's ability of how to efficiently use that energy. Then there's your cortisol. That's about your, like, the stress responses that you have, and how you adapt to your environment. And if you know anything about stress, it can run rampant through your body, cause a lot of dysfunction, because it eats up a lot of those hormonal precursors, and you can't build any hormones if the stress is in the way. Then you have your thyroid, that's about your metabolic control center, which influences metabolism, weight, hair growth, temperature regulation, and then sex hormones that determines like vitality, mood regulation. But if nothing is connected to your brain at a nervous level, you can take all the supplements you want, you can eat everything, you can exercise every day, but that's not going to get you the health that you need if you're not solving these things intrinsically. So, dysfunctional medicine is more so about the healing on the inside, and chiropractic is more so reestablishing that brain communication, from the brain to the body, activating all those nerves, turning on everything so that it can work as designed. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, gut health is so huge. And I've heard that the gut is like our second brain, right? Because
For sure.
to make
You
sure that's
have
taken care of.
There are more neurotransmitters developed in your brain than in your mind. So that's going to determine how happy you are, your stress levels, your resilience, your mood, fatigue, the whole nine. There are lots of conditions related to gut health.
Yeah, and you shared with me a couple of your favorite stories. I know that you're so connected to your patients, and your patients absolutely love you I would love to hear you share one of those stories with the audience, whichever one that is, comes up for you first.
Um, one of my, I'll give you a shorter story and then a longer story. But one of my favorite incidences, I did a chiropractic mission trip in Jamaica a couple of years ago, and chiropractic isn't really accessible on the island. So there were people who had been like motorcycle accidents, car accidents. They were on canes, couldn't walk. But they would come in. We would adjust, like our team would adjust them. There was one woman who came in on a cane. She got her adjustment, and she literally jumped off the table and like just started dancing and was like, I didn't even know that I could move like this. I didn't know that I could feel this way. But just being able to fully express your life, whatever emotion that you want to have. That's what this is about. And even when she left, uh, when she left our meeting location, she just left her cane with us. We were like, "Hey, you forgot this." She was like, "I don't need it. I won't need it." So that was really fun. Um, then I have another patient who he was older and he had a lot of physical trauma. He was a veteran. He had a botched surgery on his spine, and it just stifled his quality of life as well. But he had a sick wife, and he needed to be there to support her. And he was at first when he came into the office, he just felt so defeated because he didn't realize how poor his mobility had gotten. He wasn't really able to walk unassisted at first. And it was pretty slow. He had to look down, make sure he wasn't tripping on anything. But after we started working with his body, just improving his mobility, getting him out of pain, he he was very appreciative that since he was doing better pouring into his cup, he was able to take care of his wife and pour into her cup as well. But just seeing him progress day by day, week by week, he's able to walk faster. He's getting stronger. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry again. um, but he's getting into hobbies that he hasn't been able to do in a while. He was an actor, and he hadn't been able to like walk on set. But then he started acting again, and like you could just see his life start to come back. He was a lot more vibrant. He smiled a lot more. He laughed a lot more. And he was just so grateful that of the experience. So yeah.
And I think those are the two stories that you shared with me. So I'm so glad you shared the same too. And, I'm tearing up here as well because it's like people don't realize like what's possible because maybe they haven't felt so good in so long that they think it's normal, right? However, like what can people maybe, what would you recommend for people so that they can take notice? Like, no, this is not normal. And I'm meant to be able to be more mobile or I'm meant to feel better or whatever it may be.
Just first of all, pain is not normal. Headaches are not normal. Constipation is not normal. These are all symptoms that your body is trying to show you to tell you that, hey, something's wrong. It's trying to communicate with you. But we have to learn how to decode these symptoms without suppressing them with medication so that we can learn what they mean and actually address it and what happens whenever they get out of balance. So ultimately, just learning about how your body systems interact, how they influence each other, and what do we have to do to restore that balance. Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Oh no, like if people are just not feeling good or, in pain? Or what would you recommend for people to just take a pause, take a moment for themselves and ask themselves, what what would you recommend so that they could be like, oh, no, this is not normal. Maybe I should come see Christy.
Yeah. So typically, your pain starts to show up when around 80% of nerve damage has already happened. Of course, that damage can be reversed if you address it. Um, but that's like your brain's final little warning, like, hey, something is not normal. I've done everything I can to try to compensate because you don't want to walk around in pain and feeling that pain. So your body does whatever it has to do to mute that pain. But that's the last resort, like, hey, take a look here. Um, so whether um, if you're starting to either get sick all the time, if you're having chronic fatigue, um, basically your body is just not working like you know it's supposed to. Like, hey, my leg's starting to get a little numb. It's starting to tingle. That didn't happen. Or I noticed this. I'm getting a little weaker here. I'm not able to comb my hair. I'm not able to shower comfortably. Um, I wake up and I'm already feeling like I'm in pain. Those are those small little signals like, hey, what's going on? Let's take a deeper look at what this means. Um, and it is a whole lot faster. It's easier to recover from those symptoms once you first notice them versus a lot of things happening and you're just gone down the rabbit hole and have just let the disease run its course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you're talking about how pain shows up when 80% of the nerves are damaged. Like, I don't think people realize that. And I'm thinking, how many people do think that's normal? Like, all the things that they're experiencing because they just don't know what life is like without it. So,
Yeah.
gosh, it's so amazing. And I'm curious, like, for your patients, like, if you recommend like ice or hot compresses, or what would you recommend?
For newer physical injuries, I would definitely recommend ice within the first 48 hours. That just helps close the blood vessels, reduce that inflammation, reduce the swelling and pain ultimately. Um, if you add the heat, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it will open those blood vessels up, bring a lot more blood to the area. It helps sweeps out some of the damage, but the extra swelling will make it a little more tender than it already was. So I would just recommend using the heat after the first 2 days, just to help keep that inflammation under control there. Um, but definitely the rice, the rest, um, ice, compression, elevation for those injuries. Yeah.
Like that, right? Rest, ice, and elevation. And so, do you, I'm wondering if you recommend ice and heat alternating at all ever?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually a really great strategy. A lot of people just realistically don't like to do it, but it is a really great strategy to both minimize that pain and sweep the damage out and flow to um, bring the new tissues and then close it back down with the ice. So I would say use the heat first and then follow the inflammation at a minimum there.
As I was saying that, it's so funny because I just pictured I oh, yeah.
Yeah, the song I like the saunas too. But the cold plunges are really well to get that inflammation out. Even balance out some of that brain chemistry as well.
Even for women.
Um, one more time.
Even for women.
Yeah.
Great.
um, But there are different parts of your spine that correlate to different functions of your body. So, for example, we have our neck here. This is the closest to your brain. So, this is going to be the most influential part to your health. So, that'll help. Whenever it's a little stressed or it needs to be addressed, you may see issues with sleep, you may see issues with mood dysregulation, brain fog, you may have headaches, have trouble turning your head. But when you get down to your thoracic spine, your mid back there, that's where our sympathetic nervous system is, or our fight or flight. So, are you familiar with, let's say, if I'm faced with, there's a big bear here outside. I'm either going to fight the bear, I'm going to run from the bear, or I'm going to freeze. So this part of your body determines what we're going to do there. So your heart rate speeds up your heart rate, gives you that epinephrine, norepinephrine. You go to your lungs, supplies the blood to your muscles so that you can escape the threat. But this also determines your digestion. So you may have some acid reflux if there's a big stress there, or if you have scoliosis, it can compress your stomach as well. But moving down to your low back, this is where your bowels are. This is where your uterus is. So everything that controls like your bladder, digestion, menstruation, fertility, that's going to be like your rest and digest nervous system, if that makes sense. And then lowering down to your tailbone, that influences like your womanly hormones, pregnancy, any issues with pregnancy that you may have. And for men, it influences your prostate health as well. So, body's pretty powerful. And typically what creates those misalignments, those subluxations, or that interference from that brain in your body. I refer to those as like your 3 T's, your thoughts, your traumas, your toxins. Your thoughts are going to determine like how you respond to stress, whether it's good stress, whether it's bad stress, it's still stress. But typically most people stress by bringing those shoulders up to their ears. They'll create a lot of tension here and in their neck. And then you have those more physical traumas that may stem from exercising, any athletic injuries you may have, but it could also come from bad sleeping positions, repetitive movements at work. You know, we're on our phone constantly, we're on the computer constantly, or having these repetitive movements, these repetitive postures that we're having to sustain for long periods of time. And your body starts to adapt to its environment. And then your toxins, those are what you're putting into your body. So the types of food that you're eating, how much water you're drinking, the medications that you're taking, but also this can go into any household cleaning products that you're using, any perfumes that you're using or fragrances that you're using, things that you wash your clothes with, all those endocrine disruptors, those have a major influence on how your body responds to stress as well, both physically and internally.
Wow, thank you for all of that, because I think, thankfully, I'm aware and have been using very clean products over the years. However, I'm sure there's people who just don't know what they don't know and are just using, all sorts of different things, not realizing that there's chemicals in and dyes and toxins in whatever they're putting on their skin, which is the largest organ. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
For that. Absolutely. Yeah, and please tell the listeners where they can find you, or if you have events coming up.
Still working on a couple of things. I have some events in motion, but finalizing details. But you can find those updates on my Instagram page at chris.thechiro. CHRIS dot THECHIRO. That is also my LinkedIn account as well. But there you'll be able to find more about functional medicine and any lifestyle changes that you may need to make to improve your health and be able to function optimally. So yeah.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for being a guest. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You're great. And I wanted to thank Mutual Aid Network, which is another nonprofit that I'm a part of. And Mutual Aid Network is everybody has strengths, right? Around the world, everybody has their strengths. Not everybody has the finances. So Mutual Aid Network really talking about collaboration, like how Alissa was talking about. We collaborate together and are able to give our strengths for other organizations. So the way that I give back is I love doing Zoom karaoke. So during the pandemic, I started Zoom karaoke because we weren't allowed to go outside. And it has been a tradition now with Mutual Aid Network. So actually next week I'll be hosting Zoom karaoke. It's going to be September 20th from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Hawaii time. And so wherever you are in the world, the last time it was so fun. We had people from all over the world, and then we closed with We Are the World. We all sang that together, and it was just beautiful. We had professional singers on, men, women, all over the world. So please come join us at the Mutual Aid Network Solidarity Summit. That's what it is. And I also wanted to give a shout out. I am part of Frequent, which is a frequency infused nutritional health and wellness company, and something that has been really dear to my heart. Every one of our products has 11 harmonic frequencies, which helps to raise our frequency and vibration, and people start feeling better. So, I had an entrepreneur who just felt like she was feeling nervous every single day, and she didn't like how her medication was making her feel. And she was able to try out Balance, which is the CBD CBG tincture from Frequence, and it helped to support her. And she felt more calm, clarity, and she started feeling more like herself. Clear, in control, without side effects, like how she was feeling from her medication. And so she just loves the new her, right? And she's able to be the entrepreneur that she's meant to, and be able to show up in her best self. So if you know of a person who would like to connect and learn more about frequency infused nutrition, please connect to me. I am on social media as well, Marilyn Lamer on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the pages, threads. And I also am now a Reiki practitioner. So I am loving doing that as well, helping people with clearing energy and things like that. It's been so fulfilling, and my clients and I feel so much better afterwards. So I'm just really thankful. So please reach out to any of our guests. Alissa, Christy, thank you so much for being on, and we'll see you next month on the World of Nutrition podcast. Aloha.